Chapter 41 Beaten. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. Gwen wanted to stay. No matter before or now, she was very interested in extraordinary events. She asked, Andrew, will it be dangerous to stay? Andrew smiled and said, don't worry, it's not a big problem. After all, he's just a king of iron. The one in the comics is called Magneto, while the one in the movie world is just King of Iron. There is a huge difference in strength. When Psylocke heard this, he couldn't help but glance at Andrew. Young people today are too arrogant, right? Even Magneto dare not take them seriously. Are the ignorant fearless, or are they simply being kicked in the head by a donkey? Gwen naturally believed in Andrew, and she asked in surprise, King of Iron? Andrew said, I have watched Magneto's battle videos. He only knows how to control metal with magnetism. To be honest, I seriously doubt that his academic qualifications are forged. Psylocke was a little unhappy and said, Magneto can kill you 10,000 times just by moving his fingers. Andrew smiled and said nothing. Psylocke snorted and turned his attention back to the battlefield, where the two sides were confronting each other. Professor Charles said to Magneto, Eric, leave before things get too big. Now that I'm here, I won't leave. Magneto said coldly, today, I not only want to take away the girl, but also let everyone know that we mutants are gods and do not need any salvation. There is only one thing we have to do, and that is to overthrow mankind and establish a country that belongs to us mutants. While Magneto was speaking, dozens of cars around him floated up at the same time, and everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Then, the cars fell to the ground with a bang, and a lot of glass shattered. This is Magneto showing the power of God. Professor Charles said, Eric, mutants are also humans. Magneto pointed at the people who had taken pictures before and asked loudly, Charles, tell me, when those people look at mutants, are they looking at the same kind of people, or are they looking at animals? Professor Charles sighed. At this time, Wolverine stepped forward and asked fiercely, your target is not me, but the little naughty one. No one here knows you, but you are a good tool man. Magneto raised his hand, and the claw blade of Logan's right hand came out uncontrollably and lay across the little naughty neck. The little naughty was shocked and asked hurriedly, Logan, what are you doing? I'm being controlled. Logan struggled desperately, but he couldn't control his hands at all. His entire body was made of adamantium alloy, and he was completely defeated by Magneto. Eric, stop! Professor Charles controlled the big steel tooth to grab Magneto's neck. Magneto was already prepared. With a wave of his hand, the big steel tooth with iron chains on his body flew backwards. Then, Magneto snorted coldly, and the firearms in the hands of all the police, agents, and soldiers flew away from their hands at the same time, and turned towards them. There were screams around, and many police officers raised their hands to express surrender. Coulson cursed secretly, wishing he had brought a plastic gun with him. Thinking of something, Coulson glanced at Andrew's position inside when he saw him drinking coffee with a calm expression, knowing that he would not take action. Useless human weapons. Magneto smiled disdainfully, then he knocked on his helmet and said, Charles, you can't control me with this here. Seeing that Magneto had the situation under control, Toad strode towards the little naughty boy. Jean wanted to use telekinesis to stop Toad, but at this moment, a gunshot suddenly rang out. Jean hurriedly turned her head to look in the direction of the sound, and found a bullet hovering in front of a policeman's eyebrow. The policeman's face turned pale with fright. Professor Charles signaled Jean to stop and asked, Eric, what do you want the little naughty to do? Of course, to complete the great work of our mutants. Charles, let us leave, otherwise, these police officers, as well as the people around them, will die. As he spoke, Magneto controlled the gun and pointed it at the people next to him. Because Andrew was so close, a gun was pointed directly at his head. Professor Charles looked helpless. He was about to compromise. At this moment, Andrew said, Magneto, please move the gun away and apologize again. This matter will be over. Otherwise, Brother Wong will be very angry and the consequences will be very serious. Serious. Andrew didn't want to take action at first. Fighting mutants to death was none of his business, but as the devil of hell, he was pointed at a gun. If he didn't do something, how would he go out in the future? Andrew is not as thick-skinned as Mephisto. Andrew's words made Magneto couldn't help laughing. This is human beings, stupid and arrogant. Psylocke thought so too. Only Coulson was ecstatic. Originally, Magneto could easily take the little naughty boy away, but unfortunately, he died a big death. Then let's move around. Andrew stood up, and an umbrella appeared silently in his hand. Gwen complained, it appeared, Schrodinger's umbrella. Lower creatures. Magneto smiled disdainfully, controlled the gun and fired. Andrew sidestepped to avoid it. Then, he used his feet hard and appeared next to Magneto like a bolt of lightning, and hit his head hard with an umbrella. So fast. Magneto's eyes were slightly focused, but he was not afraid. He was doing two things. One magnetic force controlled the umbrella in Andrew's hand, and the other magnetic force controlled the cloak in front of him. This cloak is mixed with a special flexible alloy, and coupled with Magneto's magnetic force, even a rocket launcher can't be fired. What shocked Magneto was that he couldn't control the metal in the umbrella. Then, the umbrella hit the cloak hard, and the cloak quickly dented and hit Magneto's helmet. Magneto flew out and rolled on the ground. Before Magneto could recover, Andrew appeared next to him as if teleporting. Umbrellas fell like raindrops, and the sound of banging blows was endless. Andrew snorted, "God, are you worthy?" Magneto was so angry that he wanted to fight back, but the opponent's attack speed was too fast. He couldn't gather the strength at all, so he could only be beaten passively. Fortunately, the opponent was not very powerful and he was not seriously injured. Everyone around was stunned. That was Magneto, the most wanted criminal in the United States, and now he was beaten by a young man as his grandson. The scene was as cruel as it could be, shocking. A 70-year-old man was beaten by an umbrella youth in public, and the people around not only did not stop him, but also cheered loudly. Is this a loss of morality or a distortion of human nature? Eric. Professor Charles was a little afraid to look at it. Naughty Little Naughty and Wolverine cheered loudly in their hearts. Magneto, you old guy, is also here today. The little naughty boy looked at Andrew with bright eyes. He was so handsome as Bruce Lee. Psylocke's mouth can be opened wide enough to fit an egg in. Who is that kid? He's so strong. Gwen said proudly, my boyfriend never lies. It's just Magneto. My boyfriend is a kung fu master. It's easy to beat him. Kung fu master. Ling Dai looked suspicious. She had never seen a kung fu master before. How could he be so strong? Chapter 42 Red Devil. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. At this time, the toad reacted and hurriedly shot its tongue at Andrew. Andrew felt disgusted and retreated to avoid it. Big Stelia roared and rushed towards Andrew with a bang, but Professor Charles felt sorry for his gay friend and quietly let Big Stelia go. Andrew knocked the big steel tooth to the ground with an umbrella, and Magneto took the opportunity to control himself to slide far away. Then, he roared, and all the cars around him flew up and crashed down on Andrew one after another. Andrew dodged the cars as if he were strolling. The cars crashed to the ground one after another, countless parts flying around, and there were screams of surprise all around. Magneto, who was going crazy, was about to continue attacking. At this moment, a red figure wearing a suit and a tail appeared next to him and disappeared with him. Immediately afterwards, this red figure appeared behind Toad and Daganya, leading the two of them into red gas and disappearing. Red Devil. In other words, the people in the Hellfire Club are still alive. Andrew's eyes flickered and he did not pursue. In fact, he had no intention of killing Magneto, otherwise Magneto would have been killed by him before. Villains are precious resources and cannot be killed casually. If they are killed, who will bring fear and despair to the people of New York? Andrew shook his head and pressed the button on the watch. All the electronic devices around him were formatted. This was the hacker watch developed by Howard. Coulson, I'll leave it to you to handle the rest. Andrew confessed to Coulson and left here with excited Gwen. Coulson responded subconsciously and then realized, I am not your subordinate. Coulson shook his head helplessly and began to deal with the aftermath. He first sent agents to appease the people, then walked to Professor Charles and said, "Professor, I think we need to cooperate now. Magneto obviously wants to cause big things." Professor Charles asked curiously, "Who was that person just now? Is he from S.H.I.E.L.D.? "No, we can't afford to hire him. He's just passing by." Coulson smiled bitterly. At this time, Professor Charles said, "Oh, so he is the Fire Angel. No wonder he is so powerful." The smile on Coulson's face froze. No wonder Nick Fury never went to see Professor Charles. It was too painful to talk to the mind reader. In fact, Professor Charles did not read Coulson's mind. He just received some consciousness that Coulson emitted due to his emotional fluctuations. This was his instinct and could not be stopped. "I'll keep it a secret." Professor Charles said, "Cheen will discuss the cooperation with you." After saying that, Professor Charles controlled the wheelchair to go to Wolverine and Little Naughty. Professor Charles said, "Little Naughty, I respect your choice, but I hope you can think about it carefully. Your abilities are gifts given to you by God. I don't want such a gift." The little naughty girl smiled bitterly. She thought about it and decided to go back to the Mutant Academy with the professor first. She was a little scared by what happened just now. An hour after the little naughty boy and the professor left, the mutants who stayed in Times Square suddenly appeared in offices one after another. Then, the Hell Messenger, who was as beautiful as a supermodel, asked with a smile on his face, "Do you want to change back?" Ordinary people, that the Brotherhood of Mutants base in New York is located on a small island. After being rescued, Magneto, who was bruised and swollen, and extremely embarrassed, roared, "Why did you bring me back? I want to kill that kid." Magneto didn't think he could beat Andrew. He was just careless and didn't dodge before. "Ruewen asked me to bring you back. She feels that if the trouble continues, you won't get anything good." The Red Devil shrugged. He and Magneto only had a cooperative relationship and his words were not polite at all. In addition, the Red Devil once tricked Mystique Raven into giving birth to a child for him, the Blue Devil. The relationship between the two was extremely bad. If it weren't for Magneto, Raven would never have called the Red Devil hateful. Magneto cursed bitterly. How many years has it been since he was so embarrassed? Still being pushed to the ground and beaten by a young boy, Toad said, "Eric, calm down. We will discuss the matter of revenge in the long run. We can't think about it in the long term. What happened today will make those people lose their respect for mutants. More importantly, there must be a huge conspiracy in transforming mutants back into ordinary people. We must take action as soon as possible." Magneto took a deep breath and said coldly, "Prepare the instruments. In 7 days, we will attack Times Square in New York and turn everyone in Manhattan into mutants. Red Devil, you will come with us then." The Red Devil shrugged, "I don't care." Toad was stunned and said hurriedly, "Eric, without that girl, you will die if you start the instrument. Magneto has developed a radiation instrument that transforms ordinary people into mutants. He needs to activate it himself. This instrument consumes a lot of money. If he wants the radiation wave to cover the entire Manhattan, Magneto will probably lose his life. This is why Magneto wants to capture Naughty. Naughty can absorb the abilities of others, and Magneto wants Naughty to start the instrument on his behalf. It is worth mentioning that Magneto's instrument is actually a failure. It can transform mutants, but after the transformation is completed, the mutants will die due to genetic collapse in a short period of time. What? Why doesn't Magneto know? Because he has never done experiments at all. This is what this world-breaking person is like. Lizard men, future mutant antidotes, and transformation equipment are all applied immediately after research, without any scientific spirit. Magneto said coldly, "It's okay. Raven has found a mutant who can connect with life. When the time comes, we will use the lives of those traitors in Times Square to complete our great cause as mutants." "That's no problem, Eric, let's get ready. This time, we must make it look good to humans." Toad nodded and left excitedly with the others. Magneto felt the pain in his body and was furious. He must make that kid pay the price. Although the Magneto attack occurred in Times Square, because mutants turned into ordinary people one after another, Times Square not only did not become deserted, but became more and more lively. In the Rebirth building near Times Square, Andrew felt very satisfied with the soul contracts he kept signing. What made him even more happy was that according to the investigation, mutants from other places were gathering in New York. In other words, for the next period of time, Andrew will continue to curse until his hand cramps. Technology is indeed the primary productive force. By the way, I want to develop a secret recipe for eternal youth. Will those women sell their souls to me for this? Andrew touched his chin. This seemed to be very interesting. Just look at the cosmetics market to see what price a woman can pay for youth. Chapter 43 New Project. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Not only youth, but also hair loss problems, kidney deficiency problems, weight loss problems, disability problems, these can all be taken into consideration. Andrew's mind suddenly opened up. It had been too narrow before. There were many ways to get souls, and there was no need to just focus on disasters. Of course, the premise is that Andrew develops corresponding technical products, just like the leech factor. After all, this is a big business, not a small business of a few people, and requires technological assistance, for a few people alone, not to mention kidney deficiency problems, regeneration of amputated limbs, increasing lifespan, curing cancer. Andrew can do all of these, but it consumes a lot of money and is not suitable for large-scale use. At this time, should I shout that my path has been fulfilled? Andrew couldn't help laughing. At this time, Susan opened the door and came in. She asked curiously, Andrew, what are you laughing at? Andrew said, I felt you were coming, so I smiled happily. You can say good things. Susan snorted, but with a smile on her face, she then walked up to Andrew and asked hesitantly, Andrew, have you heard of Dr. Reed's name? Andrew's eyes flashed and he asked, Dr. Reed, who is known as the smartest person on earth? Not only have I heard of his name, but I have also seen him at a cocktail party. Yes, he went bankrupt some time ago and has made a comeback recently. He wants us to invest in a new project for him. Susan nodded and said, the Cosmic Storm Project. According to him, in a few months, a cosmic storm will pass by the Earth. Cosmic storms are related to the origin of human beings. By studying them, we may be able to find a cure for all human diseases. Is it the plot of the Fantastic Four? We need to find a way to get Susan to go to the space station. It would be more interesting for her to become the Invisible Woman. However, we cannot let her and Dr. Reed rekindle their old relationship. Andrew understood, and he said, if you reject him, the Rebirth Group will not have any cooperation with Dr. Reed. In addition, warn him not to invest in the Rebirth Group, otherwise I will kill him. Susan looked confused. She could understand why he didn't invest in Dr. Reed. After all, Dr. Reed's project was risky. What the hell was Dr. Reed not allowed to invest in Rebirth Group? Andrew asked Susan, do you believe in fate? I didn't believe it before, but after meeting you, I started to believe it a little bit. Susan said, even an angel can be my boyfriend. It is normal to have a destiny. I have seen Dr. Reed, and he has very bad career luck. To put it simply, whoever he invests in is unlucky, and whoever invests in him goes bankrupt, Andrew said. How can this be? Susan was about to deny it when she suddenly thought of something and looked strange. Dr. Reed had gone bankrupt more than 10 times since graduation because the number of investors he jumped from was at least double digits. No wonder I was so poor when I was with him. Susan secretly rejoiced, fortunately, I have broken up with him. Otherwise, wouldn't I even have food to eat? Take my message to Dr. Reed. Andrew said, also, if he really wants to invest, he can go to Tony Stark. I can sell the small space station to the Stark Group. That thing is useless anyway. Susan complained, do you have a grudge against Iron Man to harm him like this? No grudge, but I am happy to see him unlucky. Besides, this is a business. Because of Iron Man, the share price of Stark Group is a bit inflated. Andrew said, when the time comes, I will short the Stark Group in advance and make another profit. This is called a win-win situation. Is this also called a win-win? Aren't you the only one who wins? Susan complained again. Andrew, are you really an angel and not a demon from hell? Andrew's face darkened, and he said coldly, Susan, you know too much, come here, I will punish you. It's work time now. Susan rolled her eyes at Andrew, twisted her waist and went out to answer Dr. Reed. Dr. Reed was a little disappointed when he heard Andrew Wong's rejection. He said, Susan, if the research on this project is successful, it can benefit many people. Susan said, Andrew said that you can go to Tony Stark to invest. He is willing to sell the space station to Tony. Tony Stark. No scientist wants to see Dr. Reed's reluctant face and Tony Stark's arrogant face. Susan glanced at Dr. Reed with pity and said, in short, Andrew will not cooperate with you. Dr. Reed, if nothing happens, you can leave. I see. Dr. Reed hesitated for a moment and said, Susan, the reason why I came to Rebirth Group is not only because of the Cosmic Storm project, but also because of a dream I had. What does your dream have to do with me? Reed, we have broken up. Susan snorted coldly. It could be heard from her tone that she had great resentment towards Reed. Dr. Reed said, it has something to do with it. I dreamed about our future son. He asked me to get you back as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will be completely snatched away by Andrew Wong soon. Susan said dissatisfiedly, Reed, even if you want to chase me again, you don't have to make such an outrageous excuse, right? I have no intention of pursuing you again. I have just made a comeback. I am very busy and have no time to fall in love. What I said is true. Dr. Reed said. Susan almost died of anger, and Andrew couldn't help laughing in the next office. Dr. Reed's emotional intelligence is as low as his IQ. I really didn't lie to you. Dr. Reed hurriedly explained, our future son also told me that he actually doesn't care who his father is. Anyway, it will definitely be him and his sister, but that bastard Andrew Wong is not only carefree, he also only cares about himself and has no intention of having children. If you are really with Andrew Wong, he might be born thousands of years later. Reed, I really misjudged you. Not only did you make up a funny lie, but you also slandered Andrew. Andrew is 10,000 times better than you. He can satisfy me in every aspect. I'm with him, I don't know. How happy. Susan pointed at the door and said coldly, leave. Seeing that Susan was angry, Dr. Reed had no choice but to leave. When he got to the door, he wanted to say something. Susan slammed the door and Dr. Reed covered his nose and screamed. With Dr. Reed's emotional intelligence, he is not worthy of being my love rival. Andrew touched his chin and thought to himself, the question is what he said true? Hey, wait, the little boy I dreamed about, could it be the son of Dr. Reed and Susan? Interesting, let's see how it develops in the future. Andrew smiled and pulled the mutants in Times Square into the illusion. Professor Charles had been staying in Times Square these past few days. He noticed the fluctuations in his mind and immediately used his abilities to follow in. Chapter 44 Dark Phoenix. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Andrew could stop Professor Charles, but he did not do so. He used flames to cover his true face and met the other person in person. Professor Charles, are you looking for me? Excuse me, were you the one who turned those mutants back into ordinary people? Professor Charles asked while carefully peeking into Andrew's mind, but he sensed nothing. Don't spy on me, otherwise you will die. In fact, if I hadn't suppressed the instinct to fight back, you would be in a vegetative state now. Andrew said, I can tell you the truth, and I can also let you keep this memory, but you have to sign a contract with me and never leak this matter, otherwise, your soul will be taken away by me. While Andrew was speaking, a contract appeared in front of Professor Charles. After reading it, he hesitated and chose to sign the contract. Professor Charles must find out this matter, and the contract is not strict. After Professor Charles finished signing the contract, Andrew said, I am the Demon King of Hell. I made a deal with those mutants. They gave me their souls after death, and I helped them transform back into ordinary people. Demon King, soul trade. Professor Charles was stunned. He had guessed many truths, but he never thought that the truth would be so unscientific and outrageous. If you are not a Demon King, how can you turn so many mutants back into ordinary people? Andrew said, Professor, this is a fair transaction between you and me. There is no conspiracy. Professor Charles said, the human soul should belong to God. No, most people's souls will only go to hell. In fact, going to my hell is far happier than going to other hells. My hell is the best hell certified by Comatage. Andrew said, Professor Charles, do you want to book a house in my hell? The price may increase in the future. I've never been good at investing. I lose as much as I invest. Fortunately, I inherited a relatively large inheritance. Professor Charles, the second-generation prodigal rich man, smiled mockingly, and then asked, Mr. Demon King, there is no human involvement in this matter, and there is no conspiracy, right? Andrew said, there is definitely no conspiracy, but there are humans involved in this matter. Professor Charles was puzzled. What do you mean? Andrew said with a smile on his face, the following is paid content. If you want to listen, please top up first. Professor Charles was dumbfounded. He was about to say something when Andrew waved him away from the illusion. Sorry, the recharge system is not open yet. Professor, remember this symbol. One day, if you want to sell your soul, please call me as soon as possible. As Andrew spoke, the flames on his body turned into a blazing phoenix, which was a symbol of rebirth in hell. Professor Charles subconsciously remembered it, a soul with the potential of the Holy Spirit. A flash of greed flashed in Andrew's eyes. The professor's soul was very pure and of immeasurable value. If he went to heaven, even the archangel would personally come out to greet him. While chatting with Professor Charles, another consciousness of Andrew was receiving the Phoenix girl. It is worth mentioning that the little naughty girl did not come over. He must have been persuaded by the professor and others. Andrew looked at the perverse and violent Dark Phoenix in front of him, and said with a smile, Phoenix Girl, or Dark Phoenix, I have wanted to see you for a long time. Phoenix Girl Jean Grey has two personalities, one is a well-informed and courteous personality, and the other is a violent inner personality with the power of the Phoenix. This inner personality was sealed by the professor with the power of the mind. Has never seen the light of day. The person who was pulled into the illusion by Andrew was not his outer personality, but his inner personality, Dark Phoenix. Can you break through that old man's blockade? Dark Phoenix said excitedly, let me out quickly, I will destroy this world. Andrew asked, this world is so beautiful, why do you want to destroy it? Because I hate this world and I want to destroy everything. Dark Phoenix roared ferociously. She had been imprisoned for too many years, and coupled with the influence of the Phoenix power, she had already lost her mind and was like a madman. Andrew shook his head, that's not okay. I haven't finished enjoying this world yet, so I can't let you destroy it. Besides, you can't represent Jean Grey, and the contract you signed is invalid. If you don't let me go, I'll kill you. Black Phoenix was furious when he heard this, and condensed a jet of black flames to hit Andrew fiercely. Andrew flew backwards, and the flames hit a stone sculpture, and the stone sculpture was instantly decomposed and disappeared. This is the power of the Phoenix, which can break down everything. However, the Black Phoenix has not yet taken over Jean's body, so its strength is relatively not too strong. Her strength in the illusion is equivalent to her strength in reality. You alone can't kill me. Andrew smiled and said that Dark Phoenix became more and more angry and chased Andrew to attack. Andrew was not polite and fought with her in the illusion. However, he did not use all his strength and deliberately stayed at the same level as Black Phoenix. What is Andrew going to do? It's very simple. Fight, play, and chat with Dark Phoenix to let her release the anger she has accumulated for decades. In this way, she will slowly change and won't think about destroying the world all day long. Of course, in addition to saving the Earth, Andrew also has another purpose, and that is, to pick up girls. For a person who has been alone for decades, suddenly someone comes to fight with you, play with you, and chat with you. It is difficult not to fall in love with him or her. After meeting Dark Phoenix, Andrew will find a way to merge Dark Phoenix and Phoenix Girl. By then, Jean Grey will completely belong to him. This is called overtaking in a corner. 6 hours after the illusion, Dark Phoenix sat on the ground tiredly and said bitterly to Andrew, "I will definitely kill you." "Sorry, I don't like being killed. I just like killing others." Andrew smiled and said, "Okay, that's it for today. See you next time." After speaking, Andrew waved his hand to drive Dark Phoenix away from the illusion. At this time, just 6 seconds had passed in real time, and a group of mutants who had turned back into ordinary people were crying with joy. At the same time, a group of Kuaishou video owners were shooting videos frantically, adding miracles and other modifications. Seeing that the mutants had turned back into ordinary people, Storm couldn't help but ask, "Professor, have you discovered anything?" Professor Charles sighed, "I was about to discover the truth, but because I had no money to top up, I was kicked offline." Storm looked confused. "What does this mean? Also, aren't you the most powerful second-generation rich man? Why do you have no money? Did you finally lose all your family property?" Professor Charles didn't explain much. At this time, he noticed that Chin was in a trance and asked with concern, "Chin, what's wrong?" Chin said, "I don't know why, but I feel a lot more relaxed and a little happy." Storm said, "Maybe it's because Logan isn't here. That guy knows you have a boyfriend and still pesters you every day." Chapter 45 Tony is captured. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. He's just more casual and has no malicious intent. Chin said that in fact, she did not reject Wolverine that much. If not, Wolverine would not pester her for nothing. Of course, Jean had no intention of cheating. In the words of the movie, girls like to play with dangerous guys but would not take him home. Professor Charles thought for a while and said, "Eric may have caused trouble recently. Chin, let Scott be stationed here. As for the mutants turning back into ordinary people, there is no need to investigate anymore." Although Chin was puzzled, she still nodded. At this time, an idea came to her mind and she said, "I'll come over too." Professor Charles thought that Chin just wanted to avoid Wolverine and did not refuse. Now he just hoped that Magneto would not cause any big trouble. Mutants cannot withstand any storms. A few days later, in Times Square at night, Cyclops Scott, wearing sunglasses, glared at Wolverine Logan with an unhappy look on his face. It was clear that this guy had nothing to do with him, but this guy took the initiative to come over. Everyone could see that. What is he planning? Logan smiled heartily and said, "Scott, I was worried that you would be lonely, so I came here to accompany you. You don't need to thank me. By the way, your motorcycle is good, and I enjoyed riding it very much, so I won't return it yet. Seduce my woman and ride my motorcycle." Scott was so angry that he almost killed Logan with his laser eyes. He snorted, "If you stay away from me, I will really thank you." Logan pretended not to hear, and asked Chin, "I have been dreaming about a dam every night recently. It should be my original memory. Can you help me with the power of your mind?" Chin is proficient in telekinesis and psychic power, and is considered Professor Charles's apprentice. Chin said, "Your memory is too vague, not even the professor can do anything about it, let alone me." Logan refused to give up and kept asking Jean to help him. Scott became more and more unhappy, but in order to maintain his grace, he did not do anything to Wolverine. While Scott and Logan were jealous, Coulson led a group of agents to guard another part of Times Square. With Magneto's character, he will definitely cause trouble. Don't be careless. In addition, throw away all the metal objects on your body, leaving no one behind. Coulson said, "The Ministry of Science and Technology has developed a cryogun with no metal on it, which is most suitable for dealing with Magneto. The cryogun doesn't really freeze people. It's filled with cobra venom, and one shot can make people fall to the ground and lose consciousness. Yes. Everyone nodded. Coulson looked out the window and frowned slightly. If Magneto really came to cause trouble, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not be strong enough. Coulson secretly sighed. It would be great if Mr. Wong would join S.H.I.E.L.D. Unfortunately, he has a huge prejudice against S.H.I.E.L.D. Our S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed guilty, but we have been protecting the world. The world-famous Statue of Liberty is located on Alice Island off the coast of Manhattan. That night, the mutants from the Brotherhood knocked out the guards on duty and gathered under the Statue of Liberty. Their eyes were full of excitement and anticipation. In the position of the torch of the statue of Goddess, Magneto and Mystique stood side by side, looking at the brightly lit Manhattan opposite. Tonight, Manhattan will be reborn. Magneto smiled slightly, turned to Mystique and asked, "Is Tony Stark here?" "Coming soon." Mystique said, "I called him pretending to be Pepper and told him to wait for him at the Statue of Liberty. With his relationship with Pepper, he would definitely come. In addition, the real Pepper was in the car, and I had someone do something to prevent Iron Man from contacting her." Before Mystique finished speaking, a burst of wild music came from the distance, and then, a steel figure sprayed flames and flew at high speed from a distance. "Why did Pepper invite me here?" Tony was a little confused. At this time, Jarvis suddenly reminded, "Enemy number 2 has been scanned on the Statue of Liberty. Please retreat immediately. The number 2 enemy is Magneto. Tony is just arrogant, not stupid. He knows exactly what will happen if he encounters Magneto. As for the number 1 enemy, he is naturally the Ghost Rider who is powerful and can steal the limelight." Tony's expression changed and he was about to stop immediately. At this moment, Magneto raised his hand and the steel suit flew uncontrollably towards the Statue of Liberty. Tony wanted to control the suit to launch missiles, but he couldn't open the launch port at all. The entire suit was enveloped by Magneto's magnetism. In fact, let alone launching missiles, Tony couldn't even call for help. Immediately afterwards, Magneto's right hand shook slightly, and the screws on the suit quickly rotated. After a while, the entire suit disintegrated and floated neatly in the air. Tony fell to the platform with a bang. Magneto said with a look of disdain, "This is the god they worship. Without the suit, he is nothing. As the saying goes, if you lose, you don't lose." Tony sneered, "At least, I won't be beaten up in the street like someone else." Magneto's face was a little dark. He waved his hand and Tony hit the wall with a bang, letting out a scream. Tony gritted his teeth and swore that he would research an anti-Magneto suit. When the time comes, he would imitate that kid and beat up Magneto on the street, as cruel as he could. Tony thought of something and asked hurriedly, "Where's Pepper? What did you do to Pepper?" "Don't worry, she's not here." Magneto said, "Do you know why I invited you here?" Tony breathed a sigh of relief, and then snorted coldly, "So this is called an invitation. I really learned it. Next time, I will also invite you to my place as a guest. I invite you here for 2 purposes. One is for the steel suit, and the other is to hang you on the Statue of Liberty for exhibition." Magneto said, "I want the whole world to know that mortals cannot defeat gods. You are an outstanding person among mortals, and you are the perfect candidate for this. Hang me on the Statue of Liberty." Tony was dumbfounded and said hurriedly, "Magneto, if you have something to say, this is definitely not possible." Tony was not afraid of anything, but he was afraid of being embarrassed. If he was really hung up on the Statue of Liberty for display, he would not have to go out in the future. "What qualifications do you have to discuss with me?" Magneto smiled contemptuously, grabbed his hand from the air, and the arc reactor on Tony's chest flew out and fell into his hand. Tony fell to the ground in pain. There was shrapnel in his blood. Without the arc reactor, the shrapnel would soon enter his heart and kill him. While Magneto reorganized the suit, he said to Tony, "Tony Stark, hand over control of the suit and I will spare your life." Tony didn't want to die, so he chose to compromise and unlock the Mark suit so that everyone could use it. Naturally, Magneto and Mystique would not believe Tony 100%. Mystique took a laptop and connected it to Mark's suit, and used the software inside to quickly modify the program. The software was designed by other hackers, and there are many in the Brotherhood. Talent. Done. After a moment, Mystique nodded to Magneto, who raised his finger, and the shrapnel in Tony's blood flew away from his body with a puff of blood. Magneto said, "What you humans are completely incapable of doing, to me, is just a matter of moving my fingers." Tony lay on the ground, gasping for air, and said, "Thank you for curing me. By the way, what is the account number? I will give you money." Magneto snorted coldly, and the wire on the ground flew up to tie Tony up. Then, the wire flew Tony to the top of the Statue of Liberty and hung him on the edge of the crown. Tony was filled with shame and anger, and shouted in the cold wind, "Magneto, I will never let you go." Chapter 46 Steel Fortress. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. I will let you go, for you will soon become one of my compatriots. Faced with Tony's provocation, Magneto smiled slightly, then turned to Mystique and said, "Riven." Mystique opened her hands, and the suit was quickly equipped on her body under the control of Magneto. Tony looked sad. Why did he feel like he was being attacked by a minotaur? After a while, Mark's suit was completed, and Mystique was a little excited and quickly became familiar with the functions of the suit. Mark's suit has an intelligence system, and it is not difficult to get started. The first step is completed. Now, start the second step. What's Magneto's second step? It was to control the Statue of Liberty. He raised his hands upwards, and the base of the Statue of Liberty made a breaking sound. Then, the Statue of Liberty slowly flew into the sky. Yes, the Statue of Liberty flew up, and Tony was stunned. Although he was well informed, he never thought that one day the Statue of Liberty would be truly free. The Statue of Liberty weighs 225 tons. To Magneto, this weight is really nothing. In the movie, he has controlled yachts, football fields, nuclear submarines, and steel bridges. The mutants under the Statue of Liberty looked at Magneto in admiration. He was really a godlike power. Tony couldn't help but ask, "Magneto, what do you want to do?" "I want to turn you into us." Magneto's right hand shook slightly, and a large number of rivets spun away from the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty disintegrated, but under the influence of magnetism, it did not fall down. Then, Magneto transformed the statue of the goddess into a small steel fortress. In the center of the fortress was a metal round tower hundreds of meters high. Above the round tower stood a torch, and inside the torch was the mutant transformation instrument. The mutant transformation instrument is round in appearance and consists of a core controller, a silver bracket and a rotating metal circle. Tony, who was hung in the middle of the round tower, looked at this miracle and couldn't help but swallowed his saliva. He said, "The Statue of Liberty turned into the shape of Magneto." "I like your optimism." Magneto glanced at Tony and shouted downwards, "Enter the fortress and set up defenses. After tonight, this world will belong to us mutants. Long live Magneto." The Brotherhood members cheered and entered the simple fortress with weapons that had been prepared. Magneto wasted no time and controlled the small fortress to fly into the sky, across the sea towards Manhattan, and mutants came to dominate the world tonight. "It looks like something big is going to happen tonight," Tony murmured to himself. He couldn't help but smile bitterly when he thought of his situation. No matter whether something big happened tonight or not, he was destined to be ruined. Such a large steel fortress couldn't hide anything from anyone. S.H.I.E.L.D. quickly received the news. Coulson looked at the flying objects on the screen and immediately notified other agents and the X-Men to come to Manhattan. Then, Coulson called the Air Force, "Don't send planes over. Any plane is a toy in front of Magneto. Send troops into Manhattan." After getting a positive reply from the Army, Coulson called Director George, "Evacuate the citizens of Manhattan as quickly as possible. Magneto is definitely going to do something big this time." "Good." Director George nodded, his face looking very ugly. "What happened to New York this year? Why are disasters happening one after another?" Although Director George immediately arranged for the police to evacuate the people, it was of little use. On the one hand, the citizens did not cooperate. On the other hand, the Brotherhood was well prepared. They detonated cars and shops one after another, causing traffic chaos. This time, Magneto came prepared. Professor Charles led the X-Men to Manhattan in a jet fighter. He frowned. Although he didn't know what Magneto wanted to do, the situation of mutants will definitely get worse after this time. Professor Charles, who has dedicated his life to mutants, is deeply tired. After so many years of hard work, the future of mutants has not only not improved, but has become worse and worse. Near Times Square, the broad-minded female reporter of the Daily Bugle Luo Shan was live broadcasting. She signaled the cameraman Peter Parker to focus the camera on the police who were directing traffic, and said at the same time, the police suddenly started to evacuate the crowd. I don't know if it was because of the police. It's related to Magneto. Roxanne is the ex-girlfriend of Ghost Rider Johnny. After Andrew acquired the Daily Bugle, he hired her from Texas to New York with a high salary. To be honest, Roxanne is very satisfied with this job. On the one hand, the salary is high, and on the other hand, New York has no shortage of big news. As for why Peter is working as a cameraman here? Of course it's because we are poor. If not, who works overtime? Roxanne was about to interview the police. At this moment, Peter sensed something, raised his head suddenly, and then exclaimed. Luo Shan subconsciously looked towards the sky, her mouth suddenly opened and unable to close. In the sky, a huge and ferocious steel fortress was flying towards this direction at a fast speed. Even the moonlight was blocked wherever it passed. The citizens who had been pointing fingers at the police before now wished their parents had extra legs and fled outside like crazy. Roxanne shouted, God, Peter, quickly turn the camera to the sky, it must be Magneto here. Peter blinked and asked, Hey, Roxanne, shouldn't we run away at this time? Roxanne shouted, Run away? Are you kidding me? This is big news. My legs are lame and I can't run. Whether I can gain a foothold in New York depends on this. Is this a professional journalist? Peter was stunned. He hesitated and decided to wait and see. Soon, the steel fortress came to Times Square. Magneto didn't say anything nonsense and controlled the steel fortress to fall. The people hiding in the store were so scared that they ran outside. With a bang, the steel fortress fell heavily on Times Square, and the entire earth shook violently like an earth dragon turning over. Immediately afterwards, a large number of glass and screens shattered, and some buildings with poor quality even collapsed. The prosperous Times Square turned into a hell in an instant, with countless people screaming and wailing. Bring in those traitors. Magneto ordered in a cold voice, and Toad and Degania immediately led a group of mutants and rushed toward the Epsilon-level mutants hiding aside. Wolverine, Sheen, and Cyclops saw this and hurried over to stop them, and the two sides fought. The three Wolverines are very powerful, but their numbers are too small to stop the Brotherhood. A large number of failed mutants are captured into the fortress, and they will become Magneto's battery. Magneto rarely harms mutants, but those traitors are not considered mutants. Due to the shock, Roxanne almost fell down, but luckily Peter helped her. She nodded to Peter and immediately started reporting, while Peter held up the camera to film. At this time, Peter, who had great eyesight, noticed that there seemed to be someone hanging on the round tower, and hurriedly zoomed in on the person with the camera. After a moment, he shouted in shock, Mr. Stark. Tony Stark. Roxanne's eyes lit up and she immediately came over to look at the camera and found that Tony Stark was really hanging on it. Chapter 47 Battle. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Big news. Roshan immediately began to report. As you can see, Iron Man was captured by Magneto. Magneto seemed not to kill him, but just hung him on the round tower for display. Tony, who has been in countless news, immediately noticed that there was a camera pointed at him, and immediately shouted in the direction of the camera, Don't film, otherwise I will buy the TV station in the future and fire you. Unfortunately, because the surroundings were too noisy, no one could hear what Tony was shouting. The audience in front of the screen only saw Tony shouting, seemingly asking for help. The citizens were heartbroken. Even Iron Man was captured. What should they do? That's Iron Man. This kid also deserves what he has today. The person who said this was none other than Tony's father, Howard. Seeing Tony's embarrassment, he couldn't help laughing. "You are definitely Iron Man's biological father." Andrew complained, and he asked, "Aren't you afraid that Magneto will kill your son?" "By the way, Tony is so unlucky, could it be because of Dr. Reed?" Howard said, "Don't be afraid. If Magneto really wanted to kill Tony, he would have killed him long ago. Magneto is a mutant supremacist. He probably wants to humiliate Tony and demean ordinary people." Andrew stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the tall metal round tower, and said, "Magneto will not kill Iron Man, but he will kill Iron Man." Howard was stunned and asked hurriedly, "What do you mean?" "Magneto's instrument can transform ordinary people into mutants. The problem is that the instrument is not perfect, and the transformer will die due to genetic collapse in a short period of time." Andrew said, "He hung Iron Man there, on the one hand, to humiliate ordinary people, and on the other hand, he wanted to turn Iron Man into a mutant." Howard couldn't help but curse when he heard this. Damn it, does he have any scientific knowledge, but he doesn't even do the most basic experiments. Which university issued him a diploma? "Is this what you care about?" Andrew complained, and Howard was really a little anxious at this time. He said, "Boss, I'm going to save Tony. In front of Magneto, your suit is no different than a toy." Andrew said, "Don't worry, Tony won't die. If he really dies." Howard's eyes lit up and he asked, "Will you resurrect him?" Andrew said, "No, I will take him into the rebirth hell as soon as possible and reunite you father and son. You don't need to thank me. This is the reward you deserve." Howard's face was a little dark. "Thank you for your family." He said, "Boss, the Stark family has no successor. That kid can't die just yet." Andrew said, "I said, don't worry." Howard finally understood, and he said excitedly, "That's good, boss, I'll make preparations. The Sky Fortress has been modified." Andrew waved his hand and sent Howard back to hell. Then he took out his mobile phone and sent an anonymous voice message to Roxanne. While Luo Shan was reporting, a voice message suddenly played on the Bluetooth headset in her ear. After listening to it, she was overjoyed and turned around and shouted, "Peter, point the camera at me." Roxanne's words stopped suddenly. The reason was simple. Peter Parker slipped away at some point, leaving only the camera alone on the roof of the car. The boy actually ran away. The handsome guy is indeed unreliable. "Forget it, I will do it myself." Luo Shan gritted her teeth, walked over, positioned the camera, and started reporting, "Peter ran away." "Of course not, he just turned into Spider-Man and joined the battle." He kicked a petrified skin mutant away and shouted, "Hey, kidnapping is a felony. Damn bugs, get out." The petrified mutant roared angrily and started fighting with Spider-Man. At this time, Coulson arrived with the agents. Without any nonsense, they immediately raised their cryo guns and shot at the mutants. Several mutants fell on the spot. "Back off." Seeing this, Toad retreated with the mutants. Wolverine killed Red Eyes and immediately chased after him. With a powerful swing of his claw blade, a mutant was broken into 4 pieces. Upon seeing this, Magneto on the round tower raised his hand, and Wolverine flew up to the tower uncontrollably, and was tightly entangled in the iron bars and hung on it. Tony greeted Wolverine, "You're here too, the scenery here is nice." Wolverine ignored Tony and struggled hard, but unfortunately, because his arms were tied, he couldn't break free from the iron bars. Without Wolverine's interruption, the mutant successfully retreated into the fortress. Then, relying on the fortress, they used superpowers and firearms to attack the X-Men and agents outside. Everyone hurriedly found obstacles to avoid. Trouble. Coulson secretly cursed that the firepower they brought was a cryogun, which was not as powerful as the other party. Of course, even if they had heavy weapons, they would not dare to use them. After all, Magneto was in the round tower. In front of Magneto, modern weapons are a joke. Magneto was not in a hurry to start the instrument. He was waiting for the enemy to appear. At this moment, Mystique, who was wearing a steel suit, suddenly pointed her hand at Magneto, immediately afterwards, a voice came from Mystique's mouth, "Eric, don't make the same mistake again and again." Magneto used magnetism to control the steel suit and said at the same time, "Charles, I had expected you to come. You might as well search Raven's memories of the past few days." Professor Charles was stunned and hurriedly checked Mystique's recent memory. Then he became furious. "Eric, you actually kidnapped my student," Magneto said. "No kidnapping, just asking them to go out and have fun. Charles, from now on, you are not allowed to use your psychic abilities to control anyone in the Brotherhood. I will return them to you afterwards." Professor Charles said, "Eric, you have changed. You would never do such a thing before." Magneto snorted coldly. "In the past, I still had illusions about humans and you, but now, it's gone. Charles, only one of humans and mutants can survive, so leave." Professor Charles has always been soft-hearted, and his students are his weakness. He sighed and left Mystique's consciousness. Mystique returned to normal. She put down her hands and sneered, "Charles's soft-hearted problem will never change in this life. So, he is not suitable to lead mutants." Magneto looked down and said through gritted teeth, "That kid should be here soon. This time, I must make him look good." Mystique shook her head. "He may not take action. Even if he does take action, he can't get past the 2 hurdles of me and the Red Devil." Magneto said, "Don't underestimate him." At this time, Storm, Beast Hank, Colossus and other X-Men came from a distance to join the battle. The fighter jets were parked in the distance. After all, Magneto was here. Storm had learned about the kidnapping of the boy from Professor Charles. She was very angry, her eyes turned white, and she flew into the sky surrounded by the strong wind. Then, she controlled lightning and prepared to bombard the round tower. Upon seeing this, Mystique immediately activated the Mark suit and flew toward Storm. On the way, she controlled the suit to pop out 6 micro-missiles and shoot them at Storm. Iron Man. Storm was startled and hurriedly used lightning to blow up the missile. Mystique sneered, rushed in front of Storm, raised her hand, and blasted her to the ground with a pulse cannon. Chapter 48 Intelligence. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Mystique was about to give chase when 2 red lasers roared towards her. She hurriedly dodged. Just as Cyclops was about to continue his attack, several large rocks hit him hard from the fortress. Jean hurriedly moved the big stone away with her telekinesis. The 2 sides went back and forth, and the fight became more and more fierce. Generally speaking, the Brotherhood had the advantage, and the X-Men were unable to break into the Steel Fortress. At S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Nick Fury was watching the battle in Manhattan on the big screen while yelling into the phone, launching missiles. "Are you okay with your brain? That's Magneto. Are you going to send him weapons? A bunch of idiots." Nick Fury hung up the phone bitterly, and then asked his adjutant Maria Hill, "What is the use of Magneto's instrument? Has the technical department analyzed it?" Maria Hill replied, "No, they only speculated that the instrument may be related to magnetism." "Do they still need to analyze this?" Fury cursed, and at this time, an employee shouted excitedly, "Director, I know what that instrument is for. It can transform ordinary people into mutants." "Convert ordinary people into mutants?" Nick Fury's expression changed, and then he asked suspiciously, "How do you know?" "Kaido is live broadcasting." The employee raised his mobile phone. Luo Shan from Clarion TV was broadcasting live. "Magneto has developed an instrument that can transform ordinary people into mutants. This is his purpose tonight. He wants to transform everyone in Manhattan into mutants." Mutant. The bad thing is that Magneto's instrument has never been used before, and no one knows whether it will be successful or what the side effects will be. Once you fail, you are likely to become a ball of meat paste. I am not being alarmist. Genetic collapse, whatever happens is normal. The above content comes from a contribution from a mysterious person. We will publish it as soon as possible. You can always believe it in the Daily Bugle. Nick Fury looked extremely sad, not only because of Magneto, but also because of this information. S.H.I.L.D. is the world's #1 intelligence agency, but the director actually wants to obtain key information from Kwaidwa. If this spreads out, people will laugh to death, right? I don't want to lose face, right? The intelligence department is full of rubbish. Nick Fury cursed and shouted at the employees who were waiting for praise. If you play hard and fast during work hours, you will be fined 3 months' salary. Now go back to work. The employees were dumbfounded. Although I was indeed playing Kwaidwa, I provided important information. Nick Fury ignored the poor employee. He pondered for a moment and ordered Hill, let Barton and the others speed up and get to the battlefield as soon as possible. No matter what, Magneto must be stopped. In addition, let the military send fighter planes to circle around Manhattan. Once Magneto activates the instrument, he will immediately launch missiles towards Times Square. At that time, he may not be able to control the missiles. Hill reminded, Magneto may not be defenseless. Whether he is prepared or not, we have to give it a try. Nick Fury said, now it depends on the performance of Barton, Coulson, the X-Men, and the little spider. Hill hesitated for a moment and said, Magneto's goal is the entire Manhattan, and the Ghost Rider should come out and beat him up, just like last time. I have asked Natasha to find him, but no one knows whether he will take action. We cannot place our hopes entirely on him. Nick Fury sighed, and the idea of creating an Avengers team became more and more determined. S.H.I.E.L.D. needed a special team. Speaking of which, Wolverine Logan would be perfect for the Avengers. Nick Fury's heart moved. In fact, he and Logan had fought in the Vietnam War together, but Logan had long forgotten it. Roxanne's report quickly spread throughout Manhattan through TikTok. The citizens were frightened and fled frantically. They did not want to become mutants, not to mention that Magneto's broken instrument was not reliable at all. Unfortunately, the Brotherhood had already made preparations, and there was traffic jam in the city. Even the steel bridge had problems, and many people were stuck on the road. Iron Man is captured and can't get out. It's over now. No, I don't want to become a mutant. Fear and despair gradually spread in Manhattan. Andrew nodded with satisfaction. When radiation waves appear in the sky, there will definitely be many people willing to trade their souls for safety. The truth is always a double-edged sword. At this time, Andrew sensed something and turned his head to look at the street below. There was a car accident there. Someone was trapped in the car and couldn't get out, and he was crying anxiously. At this moment, a woman wearing a mask and a sweatshirt jumped from the second floor to the car. Then, she pulled hard and pulled the door down completely. The car owner was stunned. Before he could say anything, the woman threw away the car door, fired spider webs at the sign above, and left quickly. The people were shocked. Why did Spider-Man become a woman? This Spider-Woman is none other than Gwen. She didn't have the guts to get involved in the battle in Times Square and ran outside to save people. It's worth mentioning that her webbing came from the Osborn group, stolen. This girl Gwen looks quiet, but she is actually full of adventure, or in other words, a death-defying spirit. Andrew shook his head and didn't pay much attention. As long as he was here, Gwen would never really die no matter how much he tried to commit suicide. At the same time, in a building near Times Square, Psylocke couldn't help complaining after reading the content on Kwaisho. Did Magneto get kicked in the head by a donkey? Can you even come up with such a bad idea? Forget it, no. It's none of my business, get out of here quickly. At this moment, Psylocke's cell phone rang. After she answered the call, a woman's voice came from the other side. America's top mercenary, Psylocke. Lingdai said, yes, I don't care where you got my mobile phone number. I just ask, do you have enough money? My charges are very expensive. I'm Pepper Potts, president of Stark Corporation. Pepper said, Psylocke, your number was given to me by Jarvis. It found that you are in Times Square. I hope you can help me rescue Tony. It's not easy to save Tony Stark from Magneto. Ling Dai looked out the window and smiled, I have to pay more. Pepper said without hesitation, rescue Tony, I will give you $10 million. If he is unscathed, I will double the reward. Wow, she is indeed a woman who can take charge of Iron Man's house. She is so heroic. Psylocke smiled and said, "Don't worry, I promise to give you a complete Tony Stark." "Okay, Jarvis will assist you, Psylocke. If you can save Tony, you will gain my friendship." Pepper said, "My friendship is very valuable. I don't like making friends, but I like money." Ling Dai put down the phone and went back to the car to change into a set of clothes, a very bold high-cut tight-fitting outfit that showed off her beautiful figure to the fullest. Apart from her clothes, Psylocke didn't take anything else, including her samurai sword. Then, she jumped onto a tall building, waiting for the opportunity to take action. "Isn't that boy coming?" That at the top of the tower, seeing that Andrew had not appeared for a long time, Magneto snorted in displeasure and shouted down, "Let's get started." Chapter 49 Opening. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Traitors, dedicate your lives to the cause of mutant kind. Below the tower, a mutant's hands glowed with purple light, and then, the purple light spread from his hands to the captured Epsilon-level mutant. The mutants all screamed, and their vitality was greatly extracted by the purple light. Then, the purple light rose into the sky and sank into Magneto's body. Magneto felt that he was about to explode, and he hurriedly put his hand on the controller. The controller started, and the metal circle quickly rotated from slow to fast under the influence of magnetism. Immediately afterwards, a white light that grew larger and larger lit up above the instrument, which was a radiation energy wave. After the energy wave appeared, the surrounding magnetic field began to become chaotic, and the live broadcast screen kept fluctuating. Nick Fury hurriedly shouted, "Launch missiles, Coulson, Barton, find cover." The 6 fighter planes circling nearby heard the order and immediately flew towards Manhattan. Then, they pressed the buttons at the same time, and 6 missiles shot towards the tower with long white tails. The opportunity has come. When Psylocke saw the missile, she immediately used her mental energy to condense a long purple whip and swung it towards the spikes of the tower. Then, she ran forward a few steps and swung it with all her strength. What? Psylocke isn't afraid of missiles. Of course she's not afraid, she knows very well that Magneto can definitely deal with those missiles. "A bunch of idiots, who told you I used all my strength?" Magneto smiled disdainfully. He raised a hand and the missile circled in the air and returned along the original path. The pilots' expressions changed drastically and they hurriedly controlled the fighter planes to avoid it. Unfortunately, under the precise guidance of Magneto, these fighter planes were all hit by missiles. Boom boom boom, 6 fighters turned into 6 fireballs and fell from the sky. When the citizens saw the fighter plane turning into a fireball, their hearts sank. At the same time, as the magnetism increased, the live broadcast screen began to disappear. "The radiation wave is coming soon. Everyone, run away or hide in the basement." After Luo Shan finished her last words, she ran as fast as she could towards the underground parking lot ahead. As far as she knew, the parking lot was very deep and might be able to avoid the radiation waves. Fight. Seeing that the missile failed, the X-Men, Coulson, Barton, Spider-Man and others gritted their teeth and tried their best to break through the steel fortress. Mystique, Toad and others tried their best to block it. Whether the mutants can succeed in their great cause will depend on watch this time. At the same time, Psylocke jumped onto the tower, and then she quickly climbed to Tony Stark's side and used her mental energy to condense the knife to split the wire. "Hot girl, come on." Tony was overjoyed. At this moment, a red figure suddenly appeared next to Psylocke and struck her head with a knife. Psylocke hurriedly dodged and the red devil in a suit smiled and disappeared. Psylocke felt bad and was about to escape. The iron bars on the tower tied her up like ropes, but it was Magneto who took action. Ling Dai sighed and said, "It seems that we can't make this money." Tony's hope failed and he said unhappily, "You still have time to regret not making money. We are going to die. It's you who is dying, not me. Magneto basically doesn't kill mutants. Besides, the instrument probably won't have any effect on us mutants." Ling Dai said easily, "If not for this, how would she accept this task?" Tony became more and more unhappy. He looked at the street below and couldn't help but mutter to himself, "It's already this time, why doesn't that powerful and pushy guy show up riding a motorcycle to attract attention?" A new era of mutants begins now. After solving the trouble, Magneto activated the instrument with all his strength, and the radiation energy waves expanded wildly, and all streets in Manhattan were clearly visible. The hearts of the citizens sank to the bottom. At this moment, a reverse-cross spacecraft suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, the citizens, who were full of fear and despair, were pulled into the illusion. "Hello, I am the messenger of hell," Yelena said to the man in the suit with a smile on her face. "As long as you are willing to sign your soul after death to us in hell, we will save you from Manhattan." "Hell messenger," the man in the suit was shocked. He thought for a moment and asked, "Can you really save me?" "Of course." Yelena released several light screens and said, "You should have heard of the Peace Knights. They are the rescue messengers sent by our hell. We have been saving people. In addition, this spaceship is also ours. After you sign the contract, we will send robots to rescue you into the spacecraft. Magneto's radiation waves cannot penetrate our spaceship. The Peace Knights are actually the Hell Knights." The man in the suit was a little dumbfounded and asked, "How do I know if you devils can be trustworthy? We respect the contract, and the number of people saved by the Peace Knights is not just 1 or 2. Yelena said, "The people we rescued are still alive. We will wait patiently until you die before collecting your souls." The man in the suit was still hesitant. He said, "It's not the time to despair yet. The Fire Angel might come out to save us, just like before." "Sir, I'm sorry, that Ghost Rider is our knight from hell, not an angel from heaven." Yelena's smile became even wider. The reason why he took action was to save the contractor who signed the contract. "Are the Fire Angels from your hell?" The man in the suit was completely dumbfounded, even a little broken. The angel he admired was actually a demon from hell. Can there be trust in this world anymore? Yelena said, "There are also angels in hell. Sir, would you like to sign a contract? If you don't sign it, I will send you away. There are many people in danger now. I am very busy. We also have performance appraisals in hell. Hell also cares about performance." The man in the suit was speechless. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'll sign." In another office, a female white-collar worker adjusted her glasses and said, "Since the Fire Angel is yours, he will definitely take action again. Why should I sign the contract? He may not take action." The blonde Black Widow said, "This time, we dispatched a total of 5,000 robots, and they can only save up to 5,000 people. If the number of people who sign the contract is less than this number, the Fire Angel will not take action, because the robots can take care of everything. If more than 5,000 people sign the contract, the Fire Angel will take action to deal with Magneto. We in hell abide by the contract the most. As long as you sign, we will definitely protect your safety. Now the question is, do you want to bet on how many people sign the contract?" The female white-collar worker hesitated. She gritted her teeth and said, "I can give you my soul after death, but you have to save me and my children." The blonde Black Widow smiled and handed over the contract. "Okay." In the office, Andrew looked at the rising number of contracts and was very satisfied. But then again, when did Ghost Rider become the spiritual support of Manhattan citizens? This unscientific. Chapter 50 Take Action. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Ghost Rider is too cool. I need to reduce the exposure in the future. Frank, you go and have some fun with Mystique, and everyone else can call it a day. Andrew confessed and used the teleportation technique to teleport to the corner of Times Square. The number of contracts had exceeded tens of thousands, and the number of robots was insufficient, so he had to take action himself. Reborn in hell, I keep my word, I promise to protect you, and I will definitely protect you. This time, Andrew did not turn into the Ghost Rider. He kicked a section of the steel fence away, and then strode towards the tower. Magneto immediately noticed the low-key Andrew and immediately put away most of the magnetism. The metal circle rotated slowly, and the radiation waves condensed above and did not spread outward. Toad, bring someone to stop that kid. Mystique flew back and shouted to Toad. Toad was about to take Big Steel Tooth to stop him, but Barton shot an arrow, grazing his scalp and sinking into the chest of a mutant behind him. So dangerous. Toad couldn't help but swallowed his saliva. If he hadn't reacted quickly just now, he would have died. At the same time, the X-Men and agents fought desperately to trap the Brotherhood's mutants and prevent them from disturbing Mr. Wong. With Mr. Wong's strength, once he walks in front of Magneto, Magneto can start preparing for his funeral. Professor Charles's horrified voice rang in Mystique's mind. Riven, make Eric stop quickly, otherwise he will die. Charles, you don't have to scare me. That kid is indeed very strong, but not strong enough to kill Eric. In fact, he can't even pass my level. Mystique didn't believe it. Professor Charles was about to reveal the identity of King Andrew. At this moment, accompanied by a burst of fierce gunfire, a suit launched an attack on Mystique. This suit is all black, with a white skull pattern on the chest. It is larger than Mark's suit and looks very thick. In addition, it is full of weapons, machine guns, sniper rifles, grenades, micromissiles. It can be said to be armed to the teeth. This is Frank Custer's Punisher suit. Unlike other suits, this suit only pursues offense. Because of Tony's ideas, Mark's suit was very light and could not block the Punisher's terrifying firepower, and was sent flying in all directions. Idiot, do you know how to control Mark's suit? Dodge, attack from above, launch smoke grenades. You're pissing me off, you idiot. When Tony saw that Mark's suit was defeated by the Punisher suit, he was yelling at him. Psylocke looked at him speechlessly and complained, whose side are you from? Yes, that's the enemy. Tony reacted and shouted loudly, my suit didn't lose, it was the controller inside who lost. Psylocke couldn't help rolling her eyes. How much does Tony Stark care about face? Soon, Andrew came to the bottom of the tower. He looked up and asked, Magneto, why don't you take action? Magneto said coldly, I'll wait for you to come up. Seek death. Andrew shook his head and walked straight up the tower. Then, he was parallel to the ground and walked up step by step. Tony complained, hurry up and have people press down on Newton's coffin board. He is about to climb out again. Hey, why did I say again? No one paid attention to Tony. At this time, the Red Devil suddenly appeared behind Andrew and stabbed Andrew straight in the back of the heart. Without even looking behind him, Andrew grabbed the Red Devil's wrist with his backhand. The powerful Red Devil felt that his wrist was about to break. He was startled and hurriedly turned into a red mist and disappeared. Everyone stared around intently, waiting for the Red Devil to reappear, but surprisingly, the Red Devil seemed to evaporate and never appeared again. Where did the Red Devil go? The Red Devil himself wanted to know this question. After teleporting, he appeared out of thin air in a gloomy place with countless ghosts looming around him. Even the Red Devil was a bit creepy. The Red Devil tried to teleport, but it was useless. He couldn't help but ask, where is this place? This is a little hell on earth, Red Devil, you disinfect it first, and then we'll send you to the real hell. A ghost flew in front of the Red Devil and said coldly. The Red Devil complained, hell on earth? Where did hell come from on earth? And what the hell is disinfection? You have to disinfect before entering hell. When did hell become so hygienic? Our hell is different from those dirty and messy hells. The ghost snorted coldly, and a large amount of white mist fell from the sky to cover the Red Devil and began to disinfect him. In fact, the so-called disinfection is to eliminate the magic marks that may be on the Red Devil, so that the location of the rebirth in hell will not be known to other devils. This set of disinfection methods was developed by Andrew himself and is very reliable. The Red Devil asked in shock and anger, what are you doing? I tell you, I am not someone to be trifled with. If you offend me, you will not end well. No one paid attention to the Red Devil. After the disinfection was completed, he was transported to the throne of rebirth in hell. Andrew, the body of the devil, sat high on the throne and said lazily, kneel down and talk to you later. The Red Devil, who was very arrogant before, immediately fell to his knees with a thud, his whole body trembling, and after confirming his aura, he was the real devil. Let's not talk about the red devil for the moment. On the high tower, Andrew continued to walk up. Soon, he came to the middle position, where the three Tonys were. Wolverine Logan growled, "Let me go, I'm going to kill that old guy Magneto." Ling Dai smiled and said, "Handsome, we meet again, do you want to exchange phone numbers?" Tony said excitedly, "Boy, let me go quickly. Without my help, you will definitely not be able to defeat Magneto." Andrew ignored Wolverine and Tony. He said to Psylocke with a disdainful look on his face, "You are really here to fight in this way? You obviously have such a good talent, but you don't know how to develop it. You just do some crooked things. I don't know what it means." The first half of Andrew's words made Psylocke want to beat him, but the second half of his words made Psylocke's eyes light up. "Can I develop my abilities further?" Psylocke is obsessed with power, because the more powerful, the higher the commission. Andrew didn't answer Psylocke. He wanted to take a long shot and catch the big fish. Tony shouted impatiently, "Hey, boy, don't waste time, let me go quickly." "As you wish." Andrew's right foot shook slightly, and the steel on Tony and the three of them broke at the same time, and then they fell to the ground together. "I didn't let you let it go like this," Tony yelled, and at this time, strong winds appeared around them, and the three people's descent slowed down significantly, but it was Storm who rescued them. Andrew ignored Tony and the others. He slashed through the air, and a black light composed of black flames flashed. The tower was cut in the middle, and the upper part tilted to the right and fell. Although Andrew is absolutely sure to defeat Magneto, it does not mean that he will foolishly step into Magneto's trap. This is not a question of strength, but a question of IQ.